kuno apo pano mamuona kere nice ano pura meso ano pura nzebe ano kaya marigi kama kweto tikom kweto tikom usasai kama kwe ano kaya marigi.
Right, for January 2022, and today I'm joined by Dr. Feddious Mutenheri for the first time in 2022. How are you, Doc?
I'm very well, Gambakwe. Let me say to you, Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to the viewers.
Thank you, Doctor, and I'm very, very excited to have you. We had very interesting discussions in 2021, and I hope that in 2022, we'll have an interesting time together. Thank you very much, Doctor, for everything that you've done for us so far.
No. In our last podcast, I had to take
Right, I think I'm losing the sound here, Doc. I'm not getting you, and I don't know what we can do to get the doctor back. So I think let me take a little quick break while the doctor is fixing his sound. Let me give him a few more seconds. Are you there, Doctor? Can you hear me?
I am there, man.
Okay, I think we're going to have a network problem today. But let's quickly get into our topic. You saw what happened last year. Nelson Chamisa, he started the year very, very weakly. But I think he ended the year very, very strongly, especially after the appointment of Ostalos. I know, Doc, you agree with me that Ostalos has been a game changer in the MDC Alliance. What other things can Chamisa do in 2022 to rejuvenate the MDC Alliance?
Oh, thank you very much, Gambakwe, for that question. A very pertinent one. But as usual, you know, I want to take our viewers into a context. So a few minutes, I'll get into a context. That context is the one in which the MDC Alliance is operating, for people to understand what kind of strategies that MDC Alliance will have to take, and I mean, in order to overturn, you know, the monopoly of power by ZANU-PF. That context is that MDC Alliance, no doubt, is operating under very difficult conditions. If you like, I would say MDC Alliance is under siege. It is under siege through things that I can reduce to 5 aspects. Number one, constitutionally, there is a sense of you know, of the unknown, what will happen to MDC Alliance ever since the judgment, the EOS, I mean, the constitutional judgment, which sort of said the MDC Alliance as it is not a legal persona. And obviously, most people are watching to see what will happen with the issue of the name. But that aspect in which there is you know, uncertainty as to the issue of the name. I'm only saying uncertainty in as far as the electoral environment, which is controlled by ZANU-PF, is concerned. So that aspect really concerns not only the voter, but I'm sure even the MDC Alliance, as it is, they are having to deal with it. Number two, MDC Alliance is constrained by the issue of financing. As you would know, through that same constitutional judgment, it meant that the financing for the MDC Alliance had to be diverted to a judicially constructed MDCT. And this definitely constrains the MDC Alliance. Number three, if you like, the COVID situation to it attached the COVID regulations, which we have seen over time being used politically to constrain MDC Alliance activities around campaigning, around mobilizing, and stuff like that. So that really constrains the MDC Alliance. And number 4, the MDC Alliance is constrained by the issue of the key institutions, key state institutions, which, whether by perception or reality, are aligned to ZANU-PF. You talk of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Recently, they released controversial figures of how many people they registered and stuff like that. And this body here is a body which has not been trusted, which has not come out to show impartiality in dealing with the politics in Zimbabwe. Then you have got your judiciary, which has been perceived, again, whether it's reality or it's perception, as being captured by ZANU-PF and its system to the effect that no judgments have been given, which, I mean, relevant judgments which favor the MDC Alliance. And you have got your security services, the police and the army, which again have been seen over time, whose activities have been seen to favor more ZANU-PF and heavy-handed against the MDC. That constrains the MDC. So that's why I say MDC is under siege. Right now, we have got the Home Affairs, the Department of Registration, which is failing to live up to its mandate to issue out registration to would-be new voters, the young people. Then number 5, the whole electoral field, which is skewed against the MDC Alliance. You talk of the issue of access to media, and all those other issues that have to do with campaigning, where they have to ask for permission, yet ZANU-PF can just do it as and when they want. So these are 5, for me, major issues that militate against the MDC Alliance. Then your question says, what are the strategies that the MDC Alliance, President Chamisa, can put in place in order to rejuvenate that part? I think for me, there could be a 2-pronged approach. What is this approach? From my opinion, there is the local strategy that the MDC can put in place, and there is an international one. Let me start with the local strategy. Obviously, we have already talked about those issues which constrain them. Number 1, the MDC Alliance has to mobilize funds. That is the first and foremost thing. But we have already seen that there is a huge chunk of people that have come up, members of the MDC in the diaspora. We have said, let's fund this struggle. Let's fund. So I think the MDC now in 2022 here, they should come up strongly and support that initiative and be seen to be pushing it, because that is their leeway. Because against ZANU-PF, which has got a machinery to raise huge funds which can be used for their activities and even to corrupt some MDC people, then they have to really mobilize. It has to be an unprecedented mobilization drive. And David Coltart and I'm sure it's Moleleke, I mean, they are in the finance department, that they have to come up with serious strategy to help these people in the diaspora and even local people who are willing to fund this strategy. Secondly, there is no doubt that Zimbabwe has up 57% youth. Those are the possible voters of the MDC Alliance. And once again, there has to be an unusual, unprecedented, gigantic drive to mobilize these youths and make sure they come to vote. I think, without comparing with ZANU-PF, but ZANU-PF can come up with what look like foolish strategies in which we see Passion Java coming up with some funny kind of things. But in as much as we might look away and say this is foolish, there is something there. So the MDC must come up with some things, I mean, some strategies around the youth, and let the youth be excited. Let the youth realize that this is their chance. And as I'm going to talk, I'll show you that this election, I think, is as watershed as the one in 2008. And I'll give you similarities as I go. Number 3, the issue of polling agents. We have talked about it. We have talked about it. Once they have raised the finances, they have to focus on issue of polling agents. What should they do? They should capacitate them. Most definitely, they have to be capacitated. What do they need to do? Capacitate them financially, capacitate them with technology. I mean, phones, modern phones, iPads or tablets, where they can gather as much information, as much evidence, you know, within the areas they will be manning in terms of elections. So, and again, they have to be very careful at choosing these. There must be cadres, there must be those members of the MDC with the party at heart, who, if I could say, incorruptible. They have to do that, and because you need these people to protect that vote. So there's been that call to protect the vote. So the issue of polling agents has to be visited. Number 4, there has to be an aggressive campaign by the MDC. What do I mean? You know, lately I think the MDC has not come out. I know people would ask me and say Zimbabwe's environment is not like South Africa. Look, I normally look at what the EFF does. They are willing to challenge ANC, even as ANC was using COVID regulations to try and gag EFF and other parties. EFF came out and said, no, if you are going to proclaim an election, we are going onto the streets, we are going to go into the villages, we are going to go into the towns and campaign shoulder to shoulder, head to head with the ANC. So I think the MDC Alliance need to come out. The leadership must lead from the front this time and be aggressive. And when I say aggressive, I'm not saying be violent. You can be aggressive in your approach without necessarily being violent. So for me, I want to see the abrasiveness of Job Sikala coming out within the leadership of the MDC. I mean, and go and campaign, whether ZANU-PF likes it or not. Of course, we know the consequences. Let those consequences be highlighted in front of the media everywhere that ZANU-PF has gone back to its way. But MDC must deliberately pursue an aggressive campaign. Number 5, pursue. This is very important, Kambakwe. A deliberate a policy of unification, whether it is going to be successful or not. But I want to see President Nelson Chamisa pursuing a strategy to unify. I don't care. We all know that at this stage, unity between Douglas Monzora and the MDC Alliance is as far as the East is from the West. You cannot even imagine. But I was saying, let me compare 2008 and this coming election. Do you understand that Morgan Tsvangirai lost simply because we let Mavambo, the little known party, run away with whatever little vote they got? We let the MDC Mutambara, the one that was led again by Welshman Mube, we let them off the leash, and they took the 8%, and it was to be a very key vote, which lost Morgan Tsvangirai that vote. Had we harnessed it, had he harnessed it, he would have won. So Nelson Chamisa should not underestimate the power of at least being seen to be unifying the opposition forces. There is the G40, which is jumping up and down, staggering all over the place. You don't need it in the hands of ZANU-PF. People like Jonathan Moyo, we saw what he did at the end of the year. I know that he, as much as we disdain his kind of politics, but I think he is more dangerous in the hands of this current ZANU-PF than if the MDC Alliance can try to harness some agreement around campaigning together against ZANU-PF. So there is need, that is, and I want to emphasize that it is going to be a very important strategy on Nelson Chamisa. Right, again, you talked about the changes in bringing in Ostalos and stuff like that, and I am going to add as my point number 7 or 8 that empower the communication department, make that department even much stronger. Yes, Ostalos, very talented in terms of his eloquence in speech, in delivering a clear message to the young people in particular. Very philosophically grounded, and a young man who has got a grasp of the politics of the day. And I think, I mean, plus with his partnering with Feddious Mutenheri, who is a very brilliant lawyer, I think that department, if it can be empowered more, once the MDC is galvanized around financing, I think that is a very important vehicle for the MDC. We saw what ZANU-PF did during Jonathan Moyo's time. You know, the jingles, you remember the time of the jingles, they were done every 5 minutes. You know, in media, you guys are in media, there is a theory called the hypodermic needle theory. You know, continuously harping something as foolish as it might be, but it ended up getting into people's heads. And we saw it worked for ZANU-PF then. So the communication department has to be empowered. You know, it has to clarify the MDC manifesto in the most easy way that the ordinary Zimbabwean in the rural area can understand. Can they do that? And they must communicate the party activities always and every time. I mean, people out there must know what the MDC is up to. There mustn't be a vacuum in which people don't know what's happening with our party, what's happening with the party name and stuff like that. The social media, where the young people have got a huge presence, must be used by this department seriously. And I think there must be a deliberate policy by the MDC to make sure that they strengthen this. But another important thing that the MDC has to do, Gambakwe, is to take charge of the issue of the voters' roll. Recently, we saw what ZEC did, and that is not by mistake. That they said we only registered around about 2,000 people. Yet other organizations are saying we did register more than 9,000, 10,000 voters where we went. And you wonder, why then is ZEC giving such a depressed figure? There is an attempt, obviously, at rigging there. So MDC must do a parallel process of making sure that they are in charge of whatever is happening with the voters' roll. And at least if they are irregularities, they must highlight them in the media, in the social media, internationally, and stuff like that. So that is very important. I'd say this is a local strategy they can take, and there are many other things we'll talk about. But internationally, the MDC must now launch what I can call a diplomatic offensive, starting regionally within SADC, SADC. They must definitely be seen to be hobnobbing with the who is who. South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, Namibia, Botswana. I mean, we need to see President Chamisa, organizing meetings, or his envoys organizing meetings with these leaders, and highlight the deplorable situation in Zimbabwe, the human rights situation in Zimbabwe, the economic situation in Zimbabwe, how it is militating against a free and fair election. That is very important. That is very important. And then after that, when you go regionally, you then expand it overseas to the partners that really care about the Zimbabwean situation. So definitely there is a lot that the MDC has to do. But in the meantime, with those opening remarks, I would say, Gambakwe, there is a whole lot of work, and we need business unusual from the MDC. It has to be. We can't continue to do the same thing and expect similar, different results. There has to be a deliberate change in the body language of the whole MDC leadership. I'm not saying they've not been doing anything, but there has to be that, that game-changing, deliberate policy to show that we really want this to win this election.
Right, Doc, I'm really excited by the clarity with which you have unpacked what Chamisa needs to do in 2022. Specifically, I'm excited about the way you looked at the structure, the internal environment, and also what Chamisa needs to do externally in the region. And, strategy is very interesting because I always say ZANU-PF is the best strategy formulation, but they are very weak on strategy implementation. However, I think it's the opposite for the MDC Alliance. They are very weak on strategy formulation, but when it comes to implementation, I think they do better than they do with their implementation. Let's look at the formulation of the strategy of the MDC. Is there a clear brand identity for the MDC Alliance going into the next elections, or are they going to wait again until right at the end to come up with the brand identity which says who is the MDC?
Yeah, thank you again for that question. I think I've addressed it when I spoke of my first point, in which I was highlighting the difficulties that MDC faces right now. That, of course, it faces, the controversy around that name, but for which I think I like the way MDC has stuck to their guns and say we are the MDC Alliance. But we saw at the end of the year, we saw the tweet that the MDC president came up with, where he was holding 3 umbrellas and asking, sort of asking which color do we go? And I think this is me gleaning from it. You can see that there is a strategy there, probably to rebrand, which is fine. And the good thing that is that the MDC right now has got an acid test, which is coming in April with the by-elections that are coming. And I think that is going to come in handy for them. We will see. In fact, it is going to be a test of what they are likely to do. But I am sure they know what's up. They know what they are faced with, and they know what they have to do. And that brand, by the way, Gabako, I want you to know that the fact that it is MDC Alliance today, and with the huge numbers we have seen coming around them when they visited various villages and towns, it is a brand. I mean, the only thing they need to do is to make sure that they protect that brand away from the hyenas in ZANU-PF, in Douglas Monzora, who are trying to wrestle that away and who are trying to make a messy debate, which is unnecessary anyway. So I think these 2 months, January, February, are going to be very critical for the MDC to set clarity onto that brand and show that they have protected it, that there is nothing going away. Remember, I've told you that around the name, whether they decide to change the name totally or to put a prefix or suffix to this name, it's fine. This brand is a more than 2-decade brand, and people know it.
Okay, I want us to wrap this up, and obviously we are moving to a new format where we'll be limiting ourselves to 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I want you to go back to, so we went to formulation of the strategy, and I think we haven't we haven't gone deep into it. But let's go into the structure and the systems. The Vice President Tendai Biti, Karenyi Kore, and the structure there in the executive, do you think they're effective, or he needs to do another reshuffle?
Oh, well, I would say there has been quite some strengths within the current executive, but just strength is not enough. Like I was telling you, that there has to be a business unusual a kind of approach within these leaders. Let me take, for instance, we have Nelson Chamisa. Nelson Chamisa is a brand by himself. I think he is one person that that evokes, I mean, so much hope within the populace and the youth in particular. And I think he is a brand above. Take Tendai Biti. In Tendai Biti, the MDC no doubt has got a cadre that is able to, with academic force, with the political aggression that is needed, who is able to, to divide and clarify what the MDC stands for. And I think he has been doing it very well, and especially towards election. Nelson, I mean, Tendai Biti is one person that can push back on ZANU-PF as moves to rig elections. And I think he has been doing extremely well. Mai Kore, I think she is a very, very vociferous woman. I've followed her in where she speaks and stuff like that. And probably there is a need for more capacity building, maybe, so that her role is streamlined as to what exactly she is supposed to do as a vice president there. I'm sure she has got a portfolio there, but we need to then see her come out, vociferously. Same goes to the Secretary General, who I think has been doing quite well, but I think he needs to move away from probably emotional politics and be more, vociferous with policy in particular, and stop responding at every given moment to critics and stuff like that. And I think the point I'm raising is that there is definitely need by the MDC, if possible. There are organizations which capacitate, and I'm sure political parties do that. They can, once their finances are okay, they can look at that, capacitate your leaders, and give clarity of what they need to do. Each one must have a charter as to what they need to do. But remember, it is within also individuals. There are individuals naturally who have it, who have the charisma to, when they are given a portfolio, to turn it around. For instance, you gave an example of Ostalos. Just within a month of him getting into that portfolio, I give credit to him. He's a young person who knows the power of the social media, and he has done it so well. And you can't take it that it is a talent which is within him. And yes, MDC still has that, MDC Alliance still has that window, probably within the leadership, to identify more cadres who have these talents, put them, deploy them, and then make sure that they effectively serve the party. And I think this is the time at which the leadership must give direction and show people that it's not about positions. It is about carrying the mandate of the party effectively. And yes, there is room, Gambakwe, for the MDC to strengthen what I can say is currently a very strong executive, a very strong leadership.
Okay. I think, Doctor, let's bring this to an end here. We are at 28 minutes, and I want to put in my last word, which is Chamisa is strongest when he is in front of the camera and in front of a mic. And that is when his opponents will fear him most, because when Chamisa starts speaking, if he does a live on Facebook, if he goes on a stage, then he can articulate his position very, very clearly. Unfortunately, I think he has not been doing that a lot. Before, he used to do like a monthly or so live where he talks directly to his supporters. And I hope that this year he starts that process again of communicating and engaging. I'm sure that will bring him much closer to the people, and also people understand his strategy better, because what we've done here is just high level. I'm sure we could spend 4 hours here unpacking what Chamisa needs to do, and obviously we'll do it. I'll do it with you. I'll do it with different other people as the year goes on. But I think the year 2021, Chamisa ended very, very strongly especially after he appointed Ostalos, all the things that we saw, starting with the Masvingo situation, what happened in Matabeleland, and now in the beginning of this year, Ostalos has already started on the move. He was in Cholocho and so forth. I think these things that they are doing on the ground, those are quite exciting, and they will make them go much, much further. Is there anything else you want to say, Doc, before we close?
No, no, definitely. In your remarks, I think you have said you have actually highlighted more on the points that I was saying. That yes, there has to be an unprecedented mobilization and of the party. And in my closing words, I think all we can wish is that everybody goes to vote, and to register to vote and contribute to the change in Zimbabwe. And there is 5 million, more than 5 million people in the diaspora, particularly emphasizing on the issue of fundraising. I really would wish to see the MDC taking the bull by its horns and mobilize those people and a whole lot other 14, 15 million who are residing in Zimbabwe currently. And I'm sure the MDC has got goodwill because there is that hope of change right now, which is there in the air, and it is the MDC that is expected. The MDC Alliance is led by Nelson Chamisa, that is expected to give a real challenge to the MDC. And like I said, unity should not evade the MDC Alliance. They should make a deliberate policy to pursue unity. We know it is difficult. It is difficult to try and work with people that you think probably they are going to infiltrate you, or that the likes of Monzora who literally betrayed them. But that is the nature of politics. If people want to be statesmen, aspire to be statesmen like Nelson Chamisa, I think there is need to deliberately pursue that policy of unifying the forces. And probably after 2023, we will see a change in the political landscape in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, Kambaba.
Thank you very much, Dr. Feddious Mutenheri. Those who want to contact you, your number is on the screen, and they can get you through WhatsApp. I really appreciate being with you here every Tuesday. And I think for today, we've done a great job to keep it short. Thank you very much, Doctor, and good night to everybody.
Thank you very much, Kambaba, and good night to you and the viewers.
Uyo uko kuno apo pano mamuona kere nai anovura meso anovura nzeve anokaya marigi
Kambakwe uyo anotara mari anogaya mari garai mamunzwa pane nyaya pano zvamunoda kunzwa zvinotaurwa pano madiko kumunzwa mugovane.com. Kambakwe vanogaya mari vanotara mari vanosiya mari Kambakwe vanotara feya kuti pamberi zvichafamba sei vanomuterere zvikubatsirei mukufamba kwenyu zvikubatsirei mirai ndikudze kuti chokwadi pano chizere Kambakwe vanogaya cash vanopa mafacts vanotara straight vane evidence vane confidence plus intelligence
entertainment current affairs and news Kambakwe.com usasarire Kambakwe anogaya mari